Hello folks, welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. My name's Danny Burt, Instagram's down there, and this is the channel where we take all kinds of weird and wonderful things from all over the world and turn them into a nice little top 10 list so you guys don't have to. And today, we've got the top 10 unsolved crimes. A lot of people seem to have a real interest with crime and criminals, just something kinda intriguing about the wrong side of the law. But what seems to fascinate people even more are the crimes that are never solved and the criminals that are never caught. Let's take a look at some of the best examples of this as we jump right into this like we always do with our number 10, the Solich Seafoot mystery. Back in 2007, authorities in British Columbia, Canada were alarmed by reports of severed feet washing up on the shores of the coastline there. Since then, an astonishing 16 feet have been discovered on beaches from BC way down to Washington State in the US. The most recent was found in February 2016. Mysteriously, the only connection between all of the feet is that they are all wearing running shoes. Some of the feet match with each other, but no other body parts have ever been found. Investigators are baffled, leaving many online proposing a number of theories ranging from grisly serial killers to the feet being the remains of the victims of the 2004 tsunami. That one is like so weird that I'm almost kind of scared for it to be actually solved. But let's move on to our number 9 now guys. We've got the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is perhaps one of the most famous unsolved series of murder cases in US history. The killings took place in California during the 1960s and 70s. The official death toll attributed to this man is 7, but he claims he killed up to 37. He often targeted young couples and would kill his victims with knives and guns. One time he wore a costume and 2 times he rang the police to report his own murders. The Zodiac Killer got his name and infamy from the fact that he would write open letters to newspapers in San Francisco that contained cryptic clues about his identity. Despite a massive investigation and decades of amateur detection work since then, nobody has ever been able to truly reveal who the Zodiac Killer was. It actually captivated people so much that it was eventually made into a movie called The Zodiac Killer, which I actually talked about over here in our horror movies based on true stories. But for now, we're going to move on to our number 8, which is the murders of Tupac and Biggie. In 1996, rapper Tupac was killed in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. This came just 2 years after a similar shooting in which Tupac survived and pointed the finger of blame at New York rappers including Biggie Smalls during the height of the East Coast-West Coast hip-hop rivalry. But just 5 months later, Biggie himself was killed in exactly the same way in a drive-by shooting in LA. Following their deaths, conspiracy theories arose about who conducted the killings and if there was any sort of link there. The investigations were a spectacular failure by the police and many witnesses were also uncooperative. The cases went nowhere and nobody was ever charged with their murders, leaving people still questioning what happened 20 years on. Some people even go so far as to say that the reason people can't find who killed Tupac is because he's still alive. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Well, let me know after the video though guys, because now we're at number 7 and we've got the Torso Murderer. Between 1934 and 1938, 13 people were killed in Cleveland by a man who came to be known as the Mad Butcher. The Mad Butcher would decapitate his victims while they were still alive. Some bodies were discovered with hands and genitals removed and also chemical burns that left their skin like leather. As the killings continued over the years, the police got more desperate to find the Mad Butcher. They even created strange looking head casts of the victims to show the public in the hopes of finding a lead. Some models were often made using the actual hair of the victims they depicted. Police eventually arrested a man who they thought was the Mad Butcher, but before he could be brought to a trial, he was found hung in his cell under suspicious circumstances. The case was closed, the documents appeared to vanish, and the Mad Butcher was never brought to justice. Scary stuff indeed, but now guys, let's take a look at our number 6, which is the case of Eliza Lam. Was a 21-year-old Canadian student studying in Vancouver who went travelling solo across the US West Coast in 2013. She checked into the Cecil Hotel in LA on the 26th of January, but things took a turn when her parents reported her missing to the LA police after not getting their daily call from her. Despite an extensive police search involving sniffer dogs and questioning people who had seen her, Eliza was nowhere to be found. All police had to go on was this bizarre footage of Eliza acting erratically in the hotel elevator on the day she was last seen. As the case drew media attention, guests at the hotel started to complain about the water being black and tasting bad. When staff went to open up one of the rooftop water tanks to see what the problem was, they found the naked, partially decomposed body of Eliza Lam. Was it suicide or was it murder? The investigation seems to put it down to accidental drowning, but a lot of people still suspect there was foul play involved. We're halfway through now, guys, at number 5, and I've got a question for you. Who put Bella in the witch elm? On April 13th, 1948, 4 boys from Worcestershire, England found a human skull in the hollow trunk of a wych elm tree. Police recovered more parts of the skeleton and found it to be the remains of a woman who had her mouth gagged, suggesting she had suffocated. Nobody knew who she was, and after a police investigation provided no answers, graffiti started to appear around the area asking one simple question: who put Bella in the wych elm? Nobody knew who was writing this creepy graffiti, why they called her Bella, or who killed her in the first place. The outbreak of World War II severely stalled investigation attempts, leaving only theories in its place. One such theory is that she was actress Clara Bauerl, a German actress thought to be a Nazi spy that was parachuted into England but never made radio contact. Perhaps some people in England found her and took the war into their own hands and did this to her. They would have known her as Clara Bell or Clara Bella in English, or just Bella for short. And things are staying just as creepy, guys, now as we head over to Japan for our number 4 with the monster with 21 faces. This is a story of possibly the most famous extortion in Japanese history. A mysterious group known only as the monster with 21 faces sent 2 armed men to kidnap the president of the Gilco Food Company. They took him in front of his family and then made their demands: 100 million yen and 100 kilos of gold bullion. They also released a letter that said they poisoned the company soda drink, which lost them millions in sales. They then turned onto another food company called Morinaga and sent them 21 packages laced with highly toxic sodium cyanide, and sent a letter addressed to the mothers of Japan where they told them that they had poisoned 20 random candy products in the country. Police only found 11. Amazingly, the only person to actually die from this was the police chief in charge of the investigation. He felt dishonorable after not being able to find the monster with 21 faces and committed suicide by setting fire to himself. To this day, no one knows who the monster with 21 faces was. And now, guys, we're moving on to number 3, and we got the case of the lead masks. In 1966, a boy flying a kite in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro found 2 engineers lying next to each other in a field, dead. They were wearing suits, waterproof coats, and lead masks that covered their faces. There was no signs of a struggle. Their deaths were a total mystery. The police searched their bodies and found an empty water bottle, 2 towels, and a notebook. And this is where it gets weird. The notebook contained a list of times and instructions that read 1630, be at agreed place, 1830, swallow capsules, after effect, protect metals, wait for mass signal. It's crazy, right? It seems like suicide, but this note suggests that they actually expected something to happen after they swallowed the capsules. And they also had a coupon to return the water bottle later that day, so if it wasn't suicide, who made them do it? It's a creepy unsolved crime that leaves everyone a little bit spooked even to this day, but we've got to move on to number 2, guys, and we've got perhaps the most famous unsolved crimes of all time by Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper was a serial murderer in Victorian London who killed his victims, mainly prostitutes, back in 1888. He would often slit their throats and mutilate their bodies, leaving them to be found in dark alleyways and no clues as to who the murderer was. Jack the Ripper got his name from a letter wrote to local newspapers that was thought to be from the killer himself, but was later found to be a hoax. The name, however, stuck, and people became morbidly obsessed with trying to uncover the Ripper's identity. It's thought that he had worked in some sort of anatomy type profession, such as a surgeon, because of the way he would sometimes remove his victims' organs with expert precision. The police had very little to go on, which left the public trying to fill in the blanks with their own theories. Today, there is over 100 theories about who Jack the Ripper was, and the studying of the subject even has its own name: Ripperology. So if you guys want to study something with ology at the end of it and you can't decide between biology and psychology, why not just choose Ripperology? Now then, guys, we finally reached number 1, and it's a case that might not be as famous as Jack the Ripper, but I think it's just as intriguing. It's the curious case of D.B. Cooper. On November the 24th, 1971, a man who called himself Dan Cooper boarded a flight in Portland bound for Seattle. He was dressed as a businessman and drew little attention until, when they were in the air, Cooper leaned forward and gave a note to the stewardess. Cooper whispered, "Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb." After showing her the bomb in his suitcase, he instructed the plane to land at Seattle, where he made his demands: $200,000 $100,000 in cash, 4 parachutes and food for the crew. He then released the passengers and instructed the crew to take off again. Somewhere north of Portland, he told the stewardess to leave him. He then tied the money to his body and jumped into the night, never to be seen again. To this day, it remains the only unsolved case of air piracy in American history. And 9 years later, a boy who was making a campfire north of Portland found $5,800 of that money still wrapped up in the rubber bands. There are now groups online and entire websites dedicated to uncovering what happened to this man. Did he get away with it and live a life of luxury somewhere, or did he parachute to his death? Maybe the DB in DB Cooper stands for Danny Burke. Who knows, just saying. But that's enough head scratching for one video, guys. Which one of these did you like the best? Do you know any better ones? Do you think we should make a part 2? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. It's been a pleasure as always, guys. If you haven't subscribed, then hit that subscribe button. If you want to watch more, there's 2 videos floating over there. Thanks for watching Most Amazing Top 10. My name's Danny Burt. You can follow me on Instagram down there, and I'll see you guys soon.